Hello and welcome to MoCDA Talk Series. We are in conversation with Julie Gratz, director, animator and artist who combines the musicality and skills in fine art to create animations that perfectly complement the music they accompany. Julie co-founded Kaleida Studio in 2013 and is still the executive director. Kaleida Studio is a video and animation production that specialises in animation for film, music, documentary and commercial projects. Enjoy the talk. Join me. Hey, we made it. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, coping with things. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How is it going over there?
It's pretty stressful. And it's like, freezing rain, but it's good to have something fun to do.
Yeah. Today's been really nice weather here in London. It's been really sunny and warm, and I was so impressed to see the sky so clean and with no, you know, planes flying all over. Normally there's
Yeah.
like a race of planes, but not today. But yeah, all good. Thank you for connecting with me tonight. I've
Yeah.
been wanting to talk to you for so long because we've met back in Miami in Carafe, and I've really enjoyed looking at the art you create, and I thought, let's speak with Julie.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored that you reached out.
Yeah. I think there's a few people watching, so if you guys have any question to send over, please do. But I otherwise will ask you some questions, and then maybe we can have a chat about what you do and how you got started. But I wanted to know, first of all, if you want to give a little introduction about yourself and how you got started into augmented reality art.
Yeah, can you hear me right now?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. All right. So I have been running a small animation studio for about 6 years. And like through doing that, I met so many amazing artists. And here, I'm gonna turn down my volume because I'm like hearing an echo right now. There we go. Okay. Yeah, through the animation studio, I had met so many amazing artists and like honed like my own skills with combining what I love the most, which is like fine art and hand drawn sort of elements and then animation. And then I kind of fell onto augmented reality through a friend at my studio building, and it was the kind of thing where he brought it up. And I was like, I don't know, that's way too techy for me. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I could never do that. But then, just kind of letting it sit in my brain for a few months, I realized that like it totally makes sense for animators and for this kind of like multidisciplinary artists, because I already, was able to create artwork and then create a digital layer to it, just like that was how I was doing my work anyway. So it kind of was a slow buildup, and then when I started figuring it out, I immediately told all my other animator friends, and I was like, your work would be perfect for this, like come join me. And we pretty quickly did a big AR art show at the gallery in my studio building, and the response was just so amazing that I uh, immediately knew that this was like an amazing path to go down, and then everything continued to escalate from there, and we've kind of shown shown all over the country, and it was so amazing to meet you in Miami. That was such an amazing show. And I'm very excited for where it's going, and excited that it's a way to share animation work with the rest of the world, and like share artists with the rest of the world that wouldn't otherwise maybe interact with that kind of art.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, absolutely. I think, AR is such a great way of sharing an experience among others, so that you can see a moving image and you can follow that story through. And what I really like about AR is that, you know, you can share their experience, and it's not just like in VR, for example, there's so much you can do in terms of exploring new world. And I think it's more like, I don't know, I normally just compare this when you go free diving or scuba diving. I feel like free diving, it's more exploring, but also looking inside yourself and feeling how your body feels, you know, because the oxygen is very low. And so whether if you go scuba diving, yes, you do have oxygen, so you're more like a tourist in the sea. But I find the VR and AR experience quite a similar way of comparing to something that you go there as an explorer to enjoy with others, or you go there also to sense for yourself. So
Yeah.
that's my way of saying it. And when you create the animations, do you have a story that starts with, you know, a traditional story structure like beginning, middle, and end, or do you take from the image you create first and then you turn that into an animation? How does that work?
Yeah, that's a good question. For my personal work so far, um, it started mostly as just like almost like animation exercises or animation meditations. So those didn't necessarily have a story to them. It was more like I just wanted to create a scene for you to kind of get lost in, but it was just like a meditative scene. And the way that I actually animate them is I build everything and create the animation first, and then we choose a still image from that animation, which becomes then the print. But because it is like a fully animated scene, and I actually put like in the ones that you shared, you know, I all my stuff is like nature based, so there's a bunch of like tree layers. And those are actually set up in 3D space, and I do have a camera that's going through these trees. So they're hand drawn, but it is in 3D space, which is why that feels like there's so much depth. And so because I'm doing that, I have to build the whole thing out, and then I basically take like a screenshot, and that becomes the print. And then more recently, I have been playing around with more, not storytelling in like the traditional sense maybe, but trying to evoke more feeling and tell more of like a little bit more of a story. But honestly, I feel like I haven't had that much time to work on this for the last year, and just because of client work and, you know, and life and everything. But it's been really exciting because the whole time I and my AR partners and my animator friends, we've been brainstorming about doing much bigger installations or much bigger AR art pieces that would be more storytelling. You know, like doing an exhibition where we have like similar AR art pieces, but it's almost like a choose your own adventure sort of situation. You can follow characters around a room, and like, you know, there's like so many possibilities. It almost gets too overwhelming, and then I don't know what to do. So then I like stick to my normal
You need
path.
to narrow it down. Yeah, we have a more technical question here, which is about softwares. There's somebody asking about which software do you use? Do you recommend?
For AR or for animation?
For AR.
So I actually have been partnering with an amazing engineer named Sunny, and my other partner Kishore. And Sunny built our AR app using Unity. But all of the artwork and the content comes from the artists, so it's kind of like a bunch of programs going on. So for my personal work, I use the whole Adobe suite. So it's like Photoshop and After Effects, and I make everything. And then Sunny kind of brings it into the augmented reality physical space.
Okay, I hope that answered the question. But yeah, you guys feel free to throw some questions to us. We'll be happy to discuss. You touched on the storytelling, and you said that you've been thinking about it for a couple of years. What does that attract you about telling a story through an artwork? And how do you see that functioning with the audience? What do you see that art as a living piece? You know, what does it do to people?
Yeah, I mean, it's been interesting to show the AR art exhibits that we've been showing around the country, because because it's such a new technology, still, even though it's not really, but it kind of still is for a lot of people. Everyone is like gets so engrossed with the artworks because it still feels so magical to them. Because it's digital art, but it's attached to this physical piece. So when they move around, it feels like, it feels much different than other forms of storytelling at this moment. So I think that emotional connection that the audiences are already having with the technology and the art is amazing. So then, using this art in an even higher artistic way, I think would be incredible. And it's what is exciting about it to me, like I was saying before, is it's combining different things. So it's combining animation and artwork, just so far. And then if you keep adding other things on top of that, like really incredible storytelling or filmmaking, I think that it could be really incredible because we've got this incredible technology now, and it's as with VR as well, and people I think are starting to use it for amazing things, like even like healing. People are doing VR instead of using opioids. So I think that if we could, I don't know, there's just so many possibilities. But I think that because it's a new technology, people are almost like they pay attention to it more. So when we have these shows, almost everyone that comes to our exhibits, they'll go through and watch every single animated AR piece because it's like they don't know what's going to happen when it starts, and it's like the mystery of it, and it's fun and it's new. So that's like an incredible and a humbling experience to have every time we show something. So, adding more on top of that quality of artwork would be incredible. And that's definitely where I want to go this year.
Great. So going back to a more technical question, somebody's asking if you can import assets from Google Tilt
Brush?
I'm not sure. I'm not an expert on that, so I don't know.
Well, yes. I mean, I'm also not an expert on like the actual like software, like tech side of things with augmented reality, but I know that all of these technologies are starting to work together much more seamlessly. So I know that you can like create an artwork in Google Tilt Brush, which is like a VR drawing program, and then you can kind of put that into other scenarios. So like Sunny and Kishore, my two partners, they have done something like that where students have drawn like 3D VR sculptures in Tilt Brush, and then they put them onto augmented reality like postcards, so that when the kids pointed their phone at the postcard, their little 3D sculpture popped up on top of it. I don't know how they did it, but they did do it.
Sounds good. You do a lot of nature themes in your work. Is that something that you prioritize over other subjects, or is there a specific reason for that? Or would you like to explore other themes?
At the moment, I do like telling my stories through like otherworldly kind of surreal landscapes. I couldn't necessarily tell you why. Although I do actually, the last piece I made, I tried really hard to put a person in it, and I just couldn't do it. I had to take them out. So, the last few ones I've been telling, more sort of just like emotional reactions to what's been happening in my personal life. And I kind of like keeping it in the abstract nature realm without it being too literal, because then I think someone can get whatever they want out of it, or whatever that makes sense to them, and it's not like beating them over the head with it. Although I love so many artists who like have characters in it and have people and are more literal. It just doesn't feel natural to me. So yeah, I'm not really sure why, but I always like being able to transport people, you know, to transport them to a different place and make them maybe forget about where they are for a couple minutes or a couple seconds. My favorite interaction with an audience member was in my little studio in Bushwick. We did an open studios event, and he was the only person in my room, and I gave him the phone to like activate everything, and he was activating it for like 15 minutes on his own, and he was not talking to me, and he was just like watching each piece, and he was so like in it on his own, and it was such an amazing feeling to be able to, whatever was happening for him, to be able to facilitate that for him.
Julie, I think there's something with the microphone or with the audio. Do you mind just moving your phone a little bit or your computer? I don't know, because I can hear it cracking.
Oh, yeah. Well, I also have a microphone I could plug in. I didn't know. Let me try that.
Maybe, yeah, if you don't mind. Thank you.
Is that better?
Try now.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's better for me. I hope everyone can hear us well too. Okay, thanks. And I was going to ask you, how does he, you know, you said that you work with other collaborators supporting you on the more technical aspects or the animation. How does that work? How does that, how does an artwork comes together? Does he have one mind, or does he have more brains together? How does that work?
So far it's been totally different for every different piece, but for the most part it's been like when we do shows, each artist, it's their own total personal artwork. So it's you know, animators who are making this work on their own anyway, and then I help them figure out how to put it into augmented reality. And then for me and the collaborators, last year for Miami, actually, that was like a big impetus to us trying to do something new. So that's when I collaborated with Sunny, and we would go, that was a really intense collaboration because I would come up with ideas. He would tell me what the tech would look like to make it happen, because for this new piece, we added depth within the piece that reacts to the camera when you're going around, and then also
I can still hear some cracking. I don't know if you want to try and move the.
I could also try headphones.
Maybe try. Sorry to interrupt you. I just
No, it's okay.
I just want to make sure that the audio gets recorded well.
Yeah. Sure.
Okay.
Is that better?
Yes, yes, okay. Much better, okay. Thank you.
Sorry.
No, it's totally fine.
Oh, technology.
We have you were saying about collaborating with others, and then sorry I've interrupted you, but yes, so you said that for the project in Miami was quite interesting because you had the idea and then your collaborator was telling you what was doable in terms of technology, I suppose, or
Yeah, I mean, we were creating this new kind of artwork that we couldn't find any tutorials for how to make it. And so, like I was saying, we like split up multiple layers so there was depth in there, and then it was also interactive. So when you tapped on your phone, the animation would change, and so that meant that we had to plan everything out like really, really well and figure out how to make it so that the animation would be a smooth transition no matter when the person tapped. Same thing for sound design. And so we went back and forth for like a few months. And also, I'm pretty picky about what the video looks like. So a lot of times we tried a few things where the video was just too pixelated and it didn't look as high quality as I needed it to look because I was like, we can't just do something that looks okay. Like it needs to be have that illusion of magic, which means it needs to have a high detail, really good color. So you know, it took a while, but we figured it out, and it was really cool to work with him because like software engineering and like you know working with augmented reality and coding weirdly has a lot of in common with animation. So we would it was kind of like a similar language to use.
Great. We have a question from Daniel. He's asking if you add music or sound to your works, or if you see some pieces without any sound, you know, to be like silent works.
I mean, for my personal work, I always like having sound because I know how much it affects me when I see work or when I see my own work with sound. Like I've been working with some incredible sound designers for my work. Zoe Brock, I work with a lot, and I'll send her a finished animation. She does sound design, sends it back to me, and when I watch it with sound for the first time, it's like it feels like it's actually real and it's like so emotional almost. So I like having sound. But that being said, not all of the pieces that we've shown have had sound. So it's not like it's necessary for everything. But for mine, since it's so like environmental and surreal, I like having that aspect to it.
And when you work with a sound designer, do you also take the role of the director, let's say, of the sound, or you give instructions of what it should feel like or sound like, or do you let others go free and then you review afterwards together?
Um, I don't have too much direction for sound because Zoe and I've worked with a couple of her colleagues, they're so talented. So sometimes I'll just be like, I don't know how to explain what I want, but when we're looking at the galaxy, I want it to sound cosmic, whatever that means. But then they do it, and it's like I don't understand how that's possible. Like sometimes I'll have like specific notes back. Like one weird thing is that every time they put frogs in the sound design, like frogs croaking, I'm like, I don't. So for some reason, I don't want
No
the frogs.
frogs. Totally, yeah. And I was going to ask you what kind of app you use for looking at the AR, and how do you control that part? You know, have you guys developed your own app, or do you use any other app out there, or how does that work? Once you, for example, sell an artwork, what do you tell the collector how to browse the work?
Yeah, so we made our own app so that we can do more of the interactive, like custom AR pieces because both Sunny and I have like so many ideas of these new kinds of AR, like art and code things that we want to try. So by having our own app, we can do all of that. But so for all of the pieces that we sold in Miami and afterwards, they all have the Kaleida Studio app, which is my studio. Um, and if you have a piece in front of you, you can watch it whenever you want. Um, so that's been really exciting. There are other just like AR art tools out there for people to play around with, but I think for us it's been nice now that we're collaborating and we can do so much more to have our own platform.
And once an AR piece is created, do you ever think about reviewing the animation for that work or revisiting? Or once it's done, it's done?
That's like such a good art eternal question, right? When do you know if it's done or not? Um, I mean, technically, I can go back in, change the animation, and like slip it into the app, and no one will know. But at the same time, I think it's really healthy to have an end. Otherwise, you'll just work on it forever. Like one of the last ones, actually, the one you posted with like the golden sort of forest that you're walking through. Um, Originally, I had made another entire half to that animation where the camera was going through the trees like it is now, but then I actually had the camera go below ground, and then you were going through almost like an underground root system. And then it was kind of like a loop that goes above ground and below ground. And I built the whole underground, and I just didn't have time to execute it by the time we had a show. So it was like kind of emotional to just be like, it's not going to be what I wanted it to be, but I can still be happy about finishing it as it is now and then kind of letting it go. But like, I actually used to teach like drink and paint classes, you know, when you like drink wine and you paint.
Yeah.
And one of the things I said every class is like, if you feel good about your painting, stop touching it, because if you can easily overwork it and then you can't take it back, you know, so you have to like, once you feel good, just like step back, and you don't have to keep painting just because you have extra time, you know, because then you might ruin it.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. Absolutely.
something I
Yeah.
remember.
I agree with you in a way, you know, when you're painting something, you have to find that balance when the work is taking its own life and it's growing outside yourself. You know, it's no longer part of that creative process. You know, it's got its own life. So I understand it's an healthy way to put an end to that and to let that work be experienced by others and seen by different eyes. You know, so you may discover things through different people's eyes that you may have not seen. So it's quite interesting as well to close that cycle.
Yeah, and the only idea that we had had, which is like an intentional way to change the artwork, is we've actually thought about doing AR art pieces that, you know, you buy or whatever. We show one print and we actually change the animation on purpose, whether it's every season or every week or whatever it is. And I think that actually is a really cool idea, but we haven't had time to do that yet.
Yeah. And have you thought about perhaps having works that are in series, like connected with each other? Like you start with one frame, and then there's part of a story, and then if you want to discover how it ends, you may need to, you know, go into a different animation and start a different AR. Or is that something that you like to explore?
Definitely. I think that would be a really exciting and like engaging way to do an art show.
It'd
And
be
you
like a
could do
TV
it.
drama in AR.
Well, yeah, I mean, and I work with all these animators who we do character animation and like storytelling for documentaries and films. So we quite often animate storylines. So like it would be cool maybe someday to do like, have you heard of like an exquisite corpse where like someone draws part of something or animates something and the next artist only sees like the last frame. So like
Yeah.
we could do something like that with AR art. But also like Sunny, now that we can do interactive stuff, we could even have like a piece that's telling a story, and then depending on where you tap on the art piece, the outcome is different, or maybe it takes you to a different piece on the
Mhm.
wall.
So there's
So
like multiple narratives going on at the same time. So every time you go in there, I think there was a PlayStation game called Until Dawn that you had all different options. And so by deciding which option you would take in the story, would have taken different directions. And that would
mhm.
be
Yeah,
very interesting.
yeah, I mean it's like also the Netflix film Bandersnatch. Did you
Yes.
watch that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I wish they would do another film with that like
Hmm.
technology, because it was so cool, and we could do something like that where it's just which way do you want to go? Like with which path do you
Hmm.
want to take?
Hmm.
And actually, I have a big project that I want to work on this year or 2 years, which would kind of do that with my personal work, where it would be like kind of like a nature exploration of something, and then the viewer can kind of choose which way they go or choose, you know, how they want to proceed with this environment. So I think that like would be an incredible way to engage
Hmm.
people.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I would love it. And in terms of the devices, you use or you advise people to use, what do you think is best in terms of having the best experience on AR? A phone, a tablet, or where do you see it going? What would you think is the best way of browsing for yourself, but also with others?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because we've had great experiences with both phone and tablet, and I think the reason is that like when we've had these AR art shows and we've got like a sign at the front that says to watch the artwork, please download this free app on your phone. And you would think that that would stop some people, but I think they're so excited about the exhibit that they do it. But then we're basically just asking people to spend more time on your own phone, which is like a device that you're intimate with. It's almost like an easy transition for people to be able to do it with their own device, especially if they have headphones too, because then they can kind of zone in on it. But tablets are also great, of course, because it's a much bigger screen. So then the animation ends up being much bigger. So that's really cool to share with people. And that's always great because, again, back like with sharing animation in this way, usually if you watch animation, it's like at a film festival where you can't really talk with your friends about what's happening. So this is a way to watch animation and you can be talking to your friends about it while it's happening and it's not rude. So that's cool too.
Hmm. Apparently, AR glasses are going to be made soon, and Daniel says he can't wait for it.
Yeah, I mean there's like a couple out there already, but I'm
Have you
kind
tried
of
any of
like
those? I haven't,
I
so I'm
have
not sure.
yeah, I have. They they're I mean they're amazing for so many different um experiences and games, but for this kind of output, it's not as perfect as it is with like a phone or a tablet, which overlays the animation perfectly, tracks it perfectly, and the like magic illusion is so perfect with phones and tablets. And with the AR glasses, it's not to me as perfect as I would want it to be yet. But like that's I'm very excited too when it continues.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Um, for the animation, how do you save or how do you store or trade that part? Do you ever um, allow collectors or buyers to just have the animation or the physical work, or how are the two linked with each other? Can they live
Um,
two separate lives or not?
I mean, right now they kind of do live two separate lives because I do post all of my work on Instagram because I like sharing the animation in that way. You reach a much wider audience. It's such a great platform for artists. So the physical print, which activates the same animation, is kind of like the second life of that artwork. But you do have a physical, like a nice physical art piece in your home. We can make it so that the collectors don't need to connect to the internet to have access to the animation. So even if they're offline, they can activate the print the same way.
Through
Um,
the app, you mean?
yeah.
Okay.
Um, and then, I mean, it's an interesting question because I know that there's a lot more digital art out there right now, and especially like utilizing like blockchain technology, like we're working with Artery right now. And like I know there's like so many different ways that digital art is moving forward, and I almost feel like I don't know enough about that. So I'm definitely open to exploring new ways of sharing the artwork or letting people buy it or own parts of, like there's just so much going on. And in Miami too, like we saw so many different ways that people were owning like little bits of different artworks and
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And the reason why I was asking is because I know that some digital art can be traded as an NFT, for example, non-fungible on the blockchain. And so I was curious to know whether when you acquire a physical work of art, you also get access to the animation, and if that was an exclusive way of having both, or if you were thinking about separating them. So I was just curious
yeah.
about that. Or how,
I
how
mean
would you
that
see that if you had the option? would you opt for keeping the two together, or would you be happy to have them separated in a way?
Um, I think I would be open to, I think it would be interesting what you were just talking about of having a collector be able to have the physical artwork, but then also exclusive access to the animation itself because there's so many ways that you can enjoy the animation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think like so far, maybe my work hasn't been like long enough. Like each piece isn't that, they're like 20 to 45 seconds long. So maybe it's not long enough to make me not share it on Instagram because I like doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it would be really awesome to maybe make another series or try it out with a couple pieces which are more exclusive, and then just maybe share bits of it or share still images or something. And um, like I feel like the way collectors and audiences are interacting with art and digital art is changing so much that I would like to keep experimenting and seeing what people like and what people don't like, or what makes them more excited about something.
Uh-huh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can always share the animations or the graphics on Instagram and still secure and keep exclusive the work. So I think
Mm,
that there's options there that you can explore in the future as well. But it's also good to keep an eye out because things are moving so fast in the art market right now. And I think even,
yeah.
even around these days that we're all keeping inside the flats, I'm sure there will be more and more experiments of looking at art online and also experiencing it in different ways. Actually, on
Mm.
this note, how do you think these times and this self-isolation time will affect the AR or would increase the AR experience, or the fact that people may understand, digital art, the concept of it even better once we'll be going back outside into the world?
Yeah, I mean it's a interesting question for AR because like to experience it, you need a physical piece in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I had actually been talking to my partners about sending out like little AR art postcards to everyone so that they can have a piece in their home and they can play around with it and see how it feels. And I think that would be, I hope it's safe to do that, but that would be a fun thing to do. I think that, people obviously have a lot more time to explore things and try new things when they're stuck at home. So hopefully people will be interacting with digital art more, especially through artists on Instagram and other, platforms. Um, and I feel like for VR, maybe it will be helpful because you can do that more in your own home. But with AR, I think it's a little bit trickier, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I think, you need to have some devices that allow you to have that experience. But yeah, otherwise, I think digital art will definitely be more mainstream. Um,
Yeah.
over these days, I've seen so many museums and galleries doing curatorial talks around
Mm,
museums, which are empty for the first time in I don't know how many years, maybe ever. So I
wow.
think it's quite interesting to see how people are shifting towards using devices to learn more about art and also appreciating it through screens when it's not possible to see things in the physical. So yeah, it's quite
Yeah.
interesting to explore that and to see how people would um, would be after. Would they have a better sense of use of using devices, to browse and experience art.
Yeah, I mean, I think like I already feel that technology and like AR technology can and does help people interact with art, in very new and exciting ways, especially for people who maybe not super, aren't usually super into art and but they're more into tech, but like the tech brings them to the artwork. So I feel like this kind of technology could hopefully connect people with like museums and galleries and artwork more. Um,
even if it's just because they have time on their hands and it's like a new technology to interact with the art. So hopefully that'll keep,
You know, at the
you
beginning,
know.
you said that a lot of people were interested and attracted by your works because, yeah, the device element. And so sometimes people were having, you know, addressing more attention towards playing with that for the first time rather than the narrative of the works. I want to think that after this time, these weeks that we're spending more at home, possibly we'll be looking more at the narratives and less at the technology we use to see
Hmm.
it. So I hope that that will be one of
Yeah.
the good side effects of all this situation.
Yeah, and I think like I maybe the reason that I've been successful in doing this is because a lot of the augmented reality that's out there is more like just about the tech rather than making
Uh-huh.
sure that the artwork is really technically and stylistically up to par as well. So like the artists that I've brought on board are so talented and you know their work is so incredible that I feel like I'm trying to make sure the art keeps up with the tech level. But even that being said, a lot of the artists that I work with, myself included, we haven't really had time to explore new ideas like the more in-depth storytelling. It's just kind of like, you know, figure out a concept that you can animate for like a 20 to 45-second video, and it's amazing. But now that we're stuck inside for a really long time, like maybe,
That's a good
hopefully,
opportunity.
yeah, you know, because there's so many possibilities with this, and I think it's mostly about people getting used to the idea of how they can create artwork for this platform and for this output, and then it takes a while to sit in your brain and figure out what the ideas would be or how you would want to use the technology, and this I think will give people that time. Like when we made that interactive, depth piece for Miami, we have this perfect workflow now, and I've shown it to a couple of our other artists, and it's like blown everyone's minds, and but they have to figure out how to build something for this kind of artwork that can be interactive and be built like this. So it does take some time to like figure out how to use these brand new mediums to the best of its ability. So I was actually thinking this morning of having like a group Zoom call with all the artists that I work with to walk them through this new kind of piece that we made so that they can start working on new kinds of augmented reality artwork that aren't just like, not just, but aren't, flat animation with a flat image because we can do so much. So I think maybe, talking to you is a good way to push me to start doing that with them so that we can really use this time to be artistically excited.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And since you mentioned, I'm gonna ask you now, what's your next big project what you guys are working on?
So we have a few ideas. I actually just wrote a big grant application for the first time for my
Well done.
personal
I know
work.
it takes long, so
Thanks. I mean, it's the kind of thing that if I don't get it, it's fine because I planned everything out. I wrote it all down, like what I want it to be like. And I don't want to talk too much about it, but it would be a much bigger four-piece series where I want to make it more of like an installation. I don't know if you've been to Dia Beacon in upstate New York. It's like a
no.
big, incredible installation art museum, and the pieces there are more about like they're like huge scale like steel structures that kind of make you feel like you're like losing your mind a little bit because it just makes you feel just very otherworldly, and I really like that kind of art which makes you feel something without necessarily telling you what to feel. And so I would like to make this series that would be these four big art pieces that are, much larger, and you can kind of sit in whatever space we create and be more like feel safe and engrossed in the piece. And it would be longer and interactive, and it's a much like more in-depth, engaging, surreal experience. And I know that like art and animation wise, I can execute that. And Sunny and like all of my collaborators are so talented that I think we can do that. It's just kind of like having the time and the motivation to like really put the time into it, something like that. But I'm really excited about that because it would be the largest art project that I've ever made for myself. Um, and then like Sunny has a ton of ideas about combining AR art with different kinds of materials and all the other animators I work with. So I like being able to help other artists as well too. So like helping them brainstorm and get excited about new possibilities.
Yeah, for sure. It sounds really exciting. Like I already picturing it in my head. I would love to be immersed in such an experience. And do you see this to be more like an AR or an XR, for example, experience? Because it's in a way it's quite performative the way you described it.
Yeah, I think like at the very least it could be AR and it would be great. But I think that we could definitely integrate more technologies as they come out. Like maybe if these AR glasses that are coming out step up their game a little bit, then maybe we would be using that instead of tablets or phones. But like, you know, with what you've seen of my work and with our work, it's all been AR, like animation attached to these physical prints. But we don't have to do that. We could have augmented reality animation that's just like flying around in the space that you're in. So it could be a combination of attaching an animation to a physical piece, but then also kind of like having that environment bleed into your physical environment, and actually make it much more immersive. And we can even do that with a tablet, you know. But if it was AR glasses, that would be cool. We could do the same sound designer friends. They actually do immersive sound design for VR, so like they have all those talents as well. So we could, you know, have it be much more immersive. It's kind of like, well, yeah, that would be super cool. But even if it was just augmented reality, that would be amazing too.
Yeah, for sure. And is there any technology that you would like to use, any cutting edge technology that you'll be eager to include in your next work?
Um,
Or if you could create one, what would you create?
oh man, that's a good question. I mean, honestly, if we could get augmented reality glasses that were more accurate and kept the illusion a little bit better, then like that would be incredible because then it's there's so much less friction between, you know, and the only bummer about having augmented reality artwork that you watch through your phone is that you're now watching my artwork through like this tiny little thing. And like I can deal with it, it's still really cool, but like if it was much more immersive, then I think that would be amazing. And I haven't really played around with virtual reality yet as an artist. I feel much more drawn to augmented reality, so AR glasses would kind of be like the best of both worlds.
Okay, so we hope that somebody out there will make them and they will go viral and everyone will have them
Yeah,
at an
exactly.
affordable price.
Yeah, I mean,
That'll
you
be
know,
a
if they
dream.
did that, yeah, and if they did that, we could make like augmented reality environments for people's homes that don't have to be connected to physical art pieces. So it could be like you'd put on your AR glasses or even your phone, and we turn your living room into like an underwater seascape or something, or
And you can
like
have your
turn
own
it.
personal exhibition in-house.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I think the
I
best
mean, that's a way to.
benefit, yeah, the best benefit will be that you're not having to use, your hands to hold the phone, and so you can have freedom to roam around and also stand closer or take a bit more of distance from the work. So
Mhm.
that will be cool as well, and it will allow,
Yeah.
I suppose, even more people to enjoy that, to see that as an experience. I'm thinking also about people that might have different kind of abilities, and so that might be better for them to experience art that way.
Yeah, and like with the AR stuff, like we could make an experience that you can experience with multiple devices. So we, like for my big immersive exhibition I want to do, it could be something where we have a bunch of AR glasses available, but if you don't have time to wait for someone who's currently experiencing it, you could watch the same thing on your phone if you wanted to. So like we can make it so that people can watch on several kinds of devices to make it more accessible, because that's the other thing about AR that's usually helpful is that many more people can experience it rather than one person does it for 20 minutes and then so you have to wait like 3 hours to be able to experience something with
Yeah,
VR.
exactly. Yes, because I remember going into exhibitions that there was like a VR experience, but only 12 people at the time could go in there, and so there was such a massive queue that you normally end up just keeping it, even though it's maybe the highlight of the exhibition for many people.
Yeah.
So there are
Yeah, so
restrictions there. So.
yeah, and that's like important is making it accessible to everyone, I think, if we can.
For sure. Yeah. Well, Julie, it's been really, really lovely talking to you. And time,
Yeah.
flies so quickly. It's already nearly an hour. But
Oh
if you
my
guys have
God.
any question for us, please send them through. And something very quick I wanted you to mention is where can people see your work, or where can we follow you? And if anyone interested in getting one of your beautiful prints and live through the augmented reality, would you mind just telling us what to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. Like all of my work is on my personal Instagram, which is, I think, tagged here. And then also all of the work by myself and all of the other artists I work with is up on the Kaleida Studio Instagram page. So, but you can find that link in my personal one too. And so that's where we show, we've got like 20 different artists that we show their AR artwork. So you can watch everything on Instagram, and then if you want to buy a physical piece, you can go to the Kaleida Studio website, and we have everything up there, all the augmented reality art pieces, and they're all limited edition. You have a free app for either iPhone or Android, so anyone can activate them. And then yeah, and then that's it, I think.
Cool. And when is your next exhibition or show? I know that now most things are closed, but are you planning anything online, or um, where can we
Yeah, I
keep
mean,
up to date?
well, I mean, like 2 weeks ago, I hung all of our entire actually show from Miami. We hung up at VR Bar in Brooklyn, in Dumbo, Brooklyn, which
Oh,
is the
right.
business.
Okay.
Yeah, it's owned by my partner Kishore. And it's like this beautiful exhibition, and now no one can go. But when you can go, check it out. But we were actually hoping to use, it's like a gorgeous space that he has there. So we were hoping to do a lot of AR art exhibitions there with that new kind of interactive art piece that I told you about. And like, it's just such an incredible space. So we are hoping to continue to do shows there. And otherwise, you know, I just try to keep everyone up to date with Instagram as but I like barely post, so I'll try to make more art and post more often.
Thank you. Yes, that'll be lovely. I always love going through your works, and I love this immersive experience and the fact that, as you were saying, it's not just a flat AR. It's you can actually go through it and see a story. It's fantastic. So thank you so much for all the beautiful work you make.
Thank you so much, Serena. I'm so honored to be on this. It was so much fun.
And yeah, thanks for taking part. This is it's been a way for me and MoCDA to support artists during these difficult times, and it's been very great to reconnect to so many people,
Yeah.
and there's people watching us every day, so I feel very privileged to be able to use the internet, the power of the internet, to do
Yeah.
that.
That's
Even
so
though
amazing.
it's difficult to stay indoors so many days, but we'll
Yeah.
get through it.
Making the best out of it.
Yeah, for sure. Julie, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so
Thank
much. And
you.
if you guys
Yeah.
have any question, please feel free to contact Julie. And yeah, it's been really nice to have everyone joining us tonight. Thanks, Julie. Take
Thank
care.
you so
Speak to you
much. You
soon.
too.
Bye now.
Stay healthy.
Bye.
Bye.